stop. So a couple weeks ago, somebody on my Patreon account asked me if there was a stripping video or if we ever made one, and I have not. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, I think, on one of the videos for the Cobra, maybe a shop tour or something, but I can't remember. But there's a couple of ways that it can be done. There is chemical stripping, and we don't use that very much. Unfortunately, the stripper that they make nowadays just isn't strong enough, really. Back 20 years ago, it would pretty much melt the varnish right off. But now you have to apply probably 5-6 times, and it still doesn't take all of it off. I watched a video not too long ago about a guy stripping a hull, and he had this stuff all over him. And so that's never a good option, especially when you're doing so many boats, and it's just not healthy to do it that way. So what we do is we use heat, and I don't want to say it takes a little longer, because it really doesn't, compared to if you were to use stripper multiple times. It does take longer than what we used to do years back, because the stripper was a lot stronger. But so what you need to do is a good heat gun. Now this one gets extremely hot. You can use some of the regular ones that you can get at like Ace Hardware and stuff too. This one's kind of more an industrial one, but works very well. We use these smaller scrapers, and one of the reasons I don't want to use a big long scraper is because here it's not so bad, but on the front of the boat where it's curved, I don't want to dig in my edges. That's really important. So we use these smaller ones, and we make them very sharp. You want to keep your scraper very sharp. That's one of the biggest keys to it. So we just heat up the varnish. So just like that, we are now down to bare wood. Very little left to do after you scrape it and get it down to bare wood like this. Now you'll hit it probably with 80 grit and then 120 grit and then 100 flat board and that whole process. But it works very well as long as your scraper is flat. You want to make sure that the scraper is flat on the surface, because if you tilt it one way or the other, it's going to dig into the wood, and that is not good. So yeah, just make sure it's sharp and it's straight and flat. It looks like a slow, tedious process, but it actually goes pretty quickly. And one of the key ways of doing that is make sure you're heating as you're going and you're scraping as you're going, you know, and kind of in a uniformed area to keep that heat generated all the way through, and then start another line section. Now, the right temperature you want for scraping is that you want this stuff to almost melt. Now you want it, if you see little bubbles, it's hot enough. It doesn't necessarily have to bubble up, but that's okay. Any bit longer though than bubbling, and you're apt to burn the wood, so stop. Once you see little bubbles start to form, then you stop with the heat. But like I say, you don't necessarily have to have those bubbles. Just get it nice and hot and warm, and you'll know once you pull on this, and if it leaves any behind, then you didn't get it warm enough. So try to get it a little bit hotter, and use your scraper, and it should come right off. So we also use two different types. I mean, this one's a little bit wider, this one's thinner. These work good. This is a homemade handle, and these blades you can get through Ace Hardware, but sometimes we're able to use a little bit wider one when it's super flat area. But like I said before, in the bow area, you just really want to watch how wide it is, because you can, you know, the curve of the boat, you can scar the edges of the wood, and you don't want to do that. Hopefully that was helpful for you. This transom would take probably about an hour to do. And then what we'd do is we'd sand it, and maybe we'll do a little video on that too to help you out on that. So yeah, if you found value in that, then hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we'll see you back here. Bye.